chips, soda, and frozen pizzas are full of salt, sugar, and fat. Now, scientists are trying to understand if there is something else about such foods that may be bad for humans. Scientists have already linked low-cost, packaged foods to rising obesity rates around the world. Obesity is a condition involving too much body fat. It increases the risk of many health problems. 3 recent studies offer more clues on how our increasingly industrialized food supply may be affecting our health. The researchers created a system that places foods into 4 groups. The system says highly processed foods are made mostly of industrialized materials and additives. Sodas, packaged cookies, instant noodles, and chicken nuggets are some examples of highly processed foods. But also included are products that can seem healthy, such as morning cereals, energy bars, and some kinds of yogurt. Researchers at the National Institutes of Health conducted a 4-week study involving 20 people. They found that people eat about 500 more calories a day when fed mostly processed foods. That is compared to when the same people were given less processed foods. The researchers permitted the 20 participants to eat as much or as little as they wanted. They were taken to a medical center so their health and behavior could be observed. In their study, researchers in France found people who ate more processed foods were more likely to have heart disease. A similar study in Spain linked eating more processed foods to a higher risk of death in general. When fed less processed foods, people in the study produced more of a hormone that controls hunger and less of a hormone that causes hunger. The reason for the reaction is not clear. The scientists also found that people ate processed foods more quickly. Kevin Hall is one of the researchers who led the study. He told the AP that processed foods are usually softer and easier to chew and swallow. Hall noted the source of nutrients might make a difference. For example, fibers from whole fruits and vegetables may be better for making people feel full than fiber added to packaged foods such as energy bars and yogurt. Avoiding processed foods can be hard, especially for people with limited time and money. Processed foods can also take many forms. In addition, companies continually re-engineer products to make them seem healthier. The newest studies may provide more reasons to avoid processed foods, but they also call attention to the difficulty of coming up with ways to do that. I'm Jonathan Evans.
Processed foods are convenient, and not all of them are bad for you. Pre-chopped vegetables or fruits canned in their own juice are just 2 examples. Sometimes, however, convenience can mean large amounts of hidden sodium, fats, and sugar, which are always bad news. But who are these processed foods that you should avoid in the grocery store? Margarine. There was a time when margarine was considered the healthy alternative to butter. However, the truth is that some margarine contains a lot of trans fats, which is considered more unhealthy than any other fat, including saturated fats. Trans fats increase bad cholesterol, which can lead to heart disease and stroke. Although the link between trans fatty acids and cancer is unclear, Johns Hopkins Medicine is just one institution that suggests lowering these fats as a part of their dietary recommendations for cancer patients and survivors. Instant ramen. Most college students have had the experience of powering through finals week fueled only by ramen and cheap coffee. Warning: do not continue this habit beyond your senior year. Better yet, stop now. A packet of ramen can contain nearly 2,000 milligrams of sodium, which is 5,000 milligrams more than the American Heart Association's daily recommended intake. That boosts blood pressure, which could lead to stroke. Additionally, with simple carbohydrates making up most of the other ingredients, ramen provides almost zero nutritional support. You should also check out the amount of fat in ramen noodles. Who knew so many unhealthy things could come in such a small package? As a healthy meal, instant ramen gets a failing grade. Granola bars.
There are three primary things that destroy the nutritional value in food. One is water, another is heat, and the third is oxygen. The ideal solution to this age-old problem is a home freeze dryer from Harvest Right. As its name suggests, freeze drying is a way to take water out of the food while it's in a very cold vacuum. This process ensures that nearly all of the nutritional value remains in the food. And when properly packaged with an oxygen absorber, the food will last up to 25 years. On the other hand, the process of canning and dehydrating food uses heat to preserve it. This heat destroys nearly half of the nutritional value. And because you can't remove all of the water, the food just doesn't last longer than 3 or 4 years. Those of you that bottle and can food likely understand the responsibility you have to use proper canning techniques and procedures. Even when canning something as simple as green beans, it's important to use proper procedures. If a mistake is made, it can result in something as serious as botulism. That can be quite deadly. Because botulism and other bacteria only grow when water is present, freeze drying is the perfect way to preserve food. Freeze drying removes all of the water from the food, and without water, these organisms cannot grow. That's one of the reasons that freeze-dried food lasts up to 25 years. Scientists have long recognized that freeze-drying is the best possible way to preserve food for both long-term and short-term storage. And the best part, when you're freeze-drying your own food, you can be sure that it's food that your family is going to love to eat.
Hello, and welcome to the second in the coffee processing videos we have done. And today we're going to be looking at natural, or sometimes called dry processed coffee. Cherries are picked from the trees and cleaned. They're cleaned so the producer can separate the unripe, overripe and damaged cherries and remove dirt, soil, twigs and leaves. This is often done by hand using a large sieve. Any unwanted cherries are picked out from the top of the sieve. The coffee cherries are spread out in the sun, either on large concrete or brick patios or on matting raised to waist height on trestles called Indian raised beds. As the cherries dry, they are raked or turned by hand to ensure even drying and prevent mildew. This can have a big effect on the final taste in the cup and stops an over-fermentation of flavours. It may take up to 4 weeks before the cherries are dried to the optimum moisture content, depending on the weather conditions. On larger plantations, machine drying is sometimes used to speed up the process, after the coffee has been pre-dried in the sun for a few days, although this is rare. The drying operation is the most important stage of the process, since it affects the final quality of the green coffee. A coffee that has been over-dried will become brittle and produce too many broken beans during hulling. broken beans are considered to be defective beans. Coffee that has not been dried sufficiently will be too moist and prone to rapid deterioration caused from attack of fungi or bacteria. The dried cherries are then sent to the mill. This is sometimes done on the farms, where hulling, sorting, grading and bagging can take place. All the outer layers of the dried cherry is removed in one step by the hulling machine. The dry method is used for about 90% of Arabica coffee produced in Brazil, and most of the coffees produced in Ethiopia and Indonesia. Almost all Robustas are processed by this method. It is not practical in very rainy regions where the humidity of the atmosphere is too wet or where it rains frequently during the harvesting. And that's it. Naturally processed coffee.
Dried mango technology. Considered the third most valuable crop in the country, the Philippine mango is one of the sweetest varieties for export. The Industrial Technology Development Institute of the Department of Science and Technology developed this dried mango processing technology. To ensure quality food industry standards, good manufacturing practices is recommended. Here are a few reminders. Sort and use mature, rare, ripe mangoes. Wash the mangoes thoroughly under running water to remove dirt, then set aside. Now prepare sanitizing stock solution by dissolving 54 grams of sodium hypochlorite granules in 4 liters water. Then prepare the chlorine solution by dissolving 76 milliliters sanitizing stock solution in 4 liters water. Sanitize mangoes in 200 ppm chlorine solution for 10 minutes. Drain after soaking. Peel and cut mango sideways with a sanitized stainless peeler and knife with a generous thickness of 1.5 centimeters. Then weigh your sliced mangoes to determine quantity of the sugar to be added. Syruping process. Add refined sugar 50% of the weight of the sliced mangoes until fully dissolved. Usually takes 10 to 20 minutes. Allow the sugar to melt. Now, blanch them until translucent with a small fire and gradually increase for 20 to 30 minutes. Remember to stir occasionally to avoid browning of sugar. When done, remove from the fire and allow the blanched mangoes to cool at room temperature while covered in